So I hope all of you can hear me loud and clear. So a very warm welcome to the career awareness session on investment banking being hosted by the Dream Catchers today. My name is Surbhi Kumar and I am the founder of the Dream Catchers. So let me start with telling you a little bit about the Dream Catchers. We are an education consulting firm based out of Mumbai, and our mission is to assist students in realizing their dream of obtaining a quality and best fit education. And how do we do that? So as you would agree, for grade 9th and 10th student, the immediate need is of the right stream and right subject selection. And for grade and 11th and 12th students, it's primarily the right course and college selection. So we conduct a psychometric assessment test, which assesses a student's aptitude, personality traits, and interest, and give a detailed report after the assessment is completed. That report contains the career fitment, which is best aligned to that student. Just keep in mind that our psychometric assessment is a starting point for us. But then we get into an individualized and personalized counseling, primarily with the student and also involving parents as well, right? Wherever needed. As a result of our counseling session, students get some clarity in terms of career options, which they can explore further. Wherever needed, we provide detailed action plan and even information around the best aligned career pathways. We also provide our services in higher education admission guidance space. We provide profile assessment and building, country and course shortlisting, best fit college mapping, letter of recommendations and statement of purpose guidance, scholarship guidance, interview guidance, and visa guidance as well. So with that, let me just tell you our session lineup for today, which means what we would be covering in next 45 minutes to an hour. So again, we are trying to cover career in finance and specifically picking investment banking. So we'll talk about the day-to-day roles and responsibilities of an investment banker, skills and competencies which are needed by an investment banker to thrive in that profession, the subject combinations which will create a good foundation for the student, supportive curricular activities. Then we also provide information around common college pathways, also known as entry pathways for this career, top colleges in India and across the globe, recruiters in India and across the globe. So keep in mind that this is just an overview. So it will not have comprehensive information, but our goal is to just provide you some information and then you can take it ahead from there, doing your own research. And if you need any further assistance, you can book an appointment with us as well. The highlight of our session is the Fireside chat with Mr. Munish Aggarwal, who is an established investment banker working with Equirus Financial Services in Mumbai. We'll try to keep some time aside for Q&A as well. So keep posting the questions which is popping up in your mind in the chat box. And depending upon the time we have in hand, we'll try to pick a few. And also we'll try to open the floor for live questions as well. Again, depending upon the time we have in hand. Okay, so if you want to make the most out of this session, I would say just keep posting the questions which you have in your mind. Okay, so now let's begin with a small warm-up quiz. So you shall see a poll just coming on your screen now, and you can also see the question on the screen as well, or the presentation itself. Yeah. I have started to receive the responses already. Good. Go ahead. Go ahead. Nice. So I'll keep it open for like just few seconds so that like we have ample time to talk about the cream of the discussion today. Okay. So I have received responses from half of the audience, or rather like, yeah, more than half. So yeah, the correct answer is IPO stands for initial public offering. It doesn't stand for interest per ounce or initial public outing. Okay, so with that, let's move further. So I'll just start with setting the right foundation for like what investment banking means and who is an investment banker. So investment bankers are professionals who work as a part of a financial institution and aiding in multiple activities, primarily in the issuance of new debts and equity securities, sale of securities, facilitating mergers and acquisitions, and even helping in reorganizations and restructuring of the companies, even trades for both institutions and private investors. So these are like their broad areas where they work, right? In terms of broad functions at an investment bank, it is mergers and acquisitions. They have a dedicated research team, merchant banking, investment banking, derivative structuring, IPOs, or like for capital raising, risk management, right? These are the broad functions. Now, I also want to give some inputs to all the students out here that there is a difference between a commercial bank and an investment bank. So sometimes I have seen in my conversation with the students, like they assume whatever is being done in a commercial bank is similarly being done in an investment bank, but there is a difference. So commercial bank really targets individuals or small to mid-sized companies. They are their clientele, but investment bank is primarily targeting large companies and now even startups as well to an extent. Their key service includes like providing loans for buying house, for cars, even gadgets, and even education loan. But if we talk about investment bank, they support companies in raising the growth capital. Now, how do they make money? Commercial bank earns money through interest charged on loans, whereas an investment bank earns money through fees charged on various services. If we talk about structure of an investment bank, it's primarily divided into front office, middle office, and back office. And I'll not dive into the details of it. You just know these things. Some of these might be like little jargons for you, but go ahead and research further, or we can have a detailed conversation as well. Moving on, let's talk about the roles and responsibilities of an investment banker. And this slide is very, very important for those of you who are considering to make your career in this field, because it covers even the skills and competencies and also the ideal subjects which you can consider studying together with the extracurricular activities. So coming back to the roles and responsibilities, I'm just trying to touch primarily on mergers and acquisition investment banker and an investment banker who is kind of involved in capital raising. Right? These are the core activities which I am kind of focusing on. So for a merger and acquisition investment banker, having an industry understanding is very important. Being good at client relationship management, very important. Deal origination is one of their core responsibility. Getting involved in valuation analysis or valuing the companies, that's part of their job. Doing due diligence on the companies, important for them. Negotiating the deal, very important. So I would say at the right price, right? For both the parties involved. Deal closing, very important. Post-merger integration, they have a lot of work to do even after the merger is completed as well, from like paperwork standpoint and other things too. From a capital raising investment banker, their primary roles and responsibilities revolves around book building, drafting the prospectus, getting involved in the IPO related activities, getting into a lot of investment meetings or taking the client into a lot of investment meetings, and it is termed as roadshows per se, issuing and selling securities. Okay. Now, in terms of skills and competencies needed, high numeracy skills, very important. Financial analysis and modeling, having a knack on it, very important. Understanding of financial market, really, really needed. And if you are part of a mergers and acquisition team, having M&A knowledge, very much needed. Having knowledge around sound valuation techniques, needed. Knowledge of risk management, very much needed. Being good at negotiation, it is a skill which they cannot do without. Communication skills, as I've mentioned in all of my different webinars, there is no profession these days where you do not need good communication skills. But here, it is all the more needed. Being good at time management, they have a lot on their plate and many things which are important activities. So they have to be really good at managing their time well. Being good at critically thinking, right? Client relationship building, very important. Having good sales skills, important. Being detailed oriented, very important. Presentation skills, yeah, they have to do a lot of presentations as well. So that really helps. Now, moving on to ideal subjects to study. Now, keep in mind, these are just ideal subjects, but not mandatory. So if you study mathematics, economics, accounting, and business finance, it will give you a solid foundation in terms of technical knowledge, like rather starting to build your technical knowledge around this field. In terms of extracurricular activities, and this is true for anyone who is trying to make a career in the field of finance, try to participate in investment and finance club, maths and economics club. Try to join online finance courses or workshops. And these days there are quite a few, like you go to Coursera, Udemy, edX, and sometimes they are very, very nominally priced or even free of cost. Read financial literature and newspapers. You might not be able to make complete sense out of it, but still it will be very helpful. Participating in investment competitions and playing games like poker, which helps building a lot of soft skills there. Let's move on. Again, you'll see another quiz, a small quiz popping up on your screens shortly. And it's about the psychometric assessments. You may or may not have heard about it, but you'll get to know why I'm bringing this particular statement in front of you. So I'll just keep it open for a few seconds and I'll just wait for your responses, and then we will move on to the next slide. So it says the purpose of using psychometric assessments is to provide objective insights into a student's aptitude, interest, and personality traits, which assist students in exploring different career options. So those of you who have answered already, all of you are right. It's a correct statement. So again, I'm just ending the quiz now. And let's move on to the next slide, which will help you understand that for an investment banker, what kind of aptitude, personality traits, and interest profile is best aligned. So if we talk about aptitude, having high potential in numerical and reasoning, that would go a long way if you are having like a natural aptitude for it, or through your academics, you have built it so far. And even being in the medium potential range for verbal aptitude would really help you a lot. But when it comes to mechanical and spatial, even if your aptitude or your potential is low on those, it's okay. You don't have to like really think too much about it if you're planning to make a career in finance field and investment banking particularly. From a personality trait standpoint, I'll focus on a couple of orientations, like say attitudinal orientation, being tough and competitive, or like being aggressive. That is a personality trait which is needed. Being resilient, being calm, being able to maintain your cool under pressure. If that's your personality trait, it's aligned to this profession and many others as well. Being focused and organized in your work, that would go a long way as well. Now, when we talk about interest profile, right, of people who wants to pursue investment banking, being conventional and enterprising or having an interest in that will help you. Now, what is conventional? It's more around being structured, being organized, and like being okay with working on data per se. Being enterprising here, it doesn't mean like you have to have an interest of like starting your own venture, but like you should be able to influence people, influence your team. Like you should be able to lead. That's what it means here. Okay, again, the goal is to just give you some understanding of the aptitude, personality, and interest needed for it. And you can like, there are a lot of avenues to even develop your personality and aptitude for a particular stream if you're truly interested in that. Okay, now let's move on. Now we'll talk about the entry pathways or college pathways. Again, it's a common for finance as such. And those of you who would have attended my earlier webinar where we picked fund management as one of the fields, so you will see it's pretty much the same pathways, but I have added few more courses there. So let's pick pathway 1. So in 11th and 12th, you take any stream, but take mathematics for sure, and economics is something which is recommended. Now pursue your bachelor's in commerce, business, economics, finance, and then take master's there. Or you can take bachelor's in mathematics and then pursue a master's in finance. Okay, and you with these pathways, you can certainly go ahead and pursue your MBA in finance as well. Pathway 3 is primarily for people who want to pursue from an engineering stream or like science stream, particularly PCM. So you take PCM, you also try to take economics if your school is providing that to you and they can provide it as an additional subject. Go ahead and do your BTech or BE, and then go ahead and do your MBA in finance or master's in finance. Okay. Now, in addition to this, parallel to your education, in some of these cases, you can start with it. And once after completing your undergraduate, you can start one of these courses as well. So parallel to your maybe college, I would say you can start going ahead with chartered accountancy, especially if you have some inclination towards accounting, right? Or once you have completed your undergraduation, go ahead and do this very good course, Chartered Financial Analyst, which is offered by a US based organization, and it's a highly regarded course in the finance industry. Other one is financial risk management. Just keep in mind that these are like multi-year long courses, so you have to be mentally prepared about it. It involves multiple levels of exams. There are other courses as well, like cost and management accountant or certified public accountant as well. Now, once you are like kind of done in terms of your education pathway, or even if you have just completed your undergrad, right, then try to secure entry level jobs at an investment bank, maybe as a junior investment banker or as an analyst, and see if instead of like working in their operations department particularly, you can work in mergers and acquisitions team, capital raising team, their advisory services, their financial analysis team. Okay. And there are other short-term courses as well. If you just want to start with these subjects and see whether you are suited with it or not. So NSC provides a very good course there. It's a comprehensive one. NISM, National Institute of Securities Markets, which is an initiative by SEBI, they also provide one. And CFA Institute USA, they have also been providing this investment foundation certificate course, and which is also a very good foundational course for you. So go and explore further on it. Okay, so let's move on. Now, in terms of courses which are provided in other countries, and this information might be useful for those of you who are planning for their studies in these locations as such, right? And it is covering undergraduate as well as postgraduate subject combinations. So you can pick up accounting and finance, you can pick up finance and investment, even banking and finance, to name a few. And there are multiple other courses as well. Now, if you want to really kind of target your profile for these courses, I would say, and particularly some of the good colleges in these countries, then surely we are here to help you. So book an appointment with us and we will be happy to provide you any assistance there. Moving on, I also wanted to give some information in terms of the finance courses available with different colleges, right? And here, like, again, it's not a comprehensive list, but from the QS World Ranking, I have picked top few colleges in the field of finance when we talk about international locations. And in India as well, we do have good colleges offering courses in finance. So DU has a lot of colleges, and definitely you'll have to sit for CUET, which is entrance exam for many of the universities. Even Mumbai University has very good colleges in providing courses in finance and related field. And in DU particularly, there is this one college which I really suggest all of you to explore further, which is Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies. If you are planning to do your undergraduate in finance from India, this is a college which has a very comprehensive finance and investment course taught by good faculty, and they have their own entrance exam as well. Now, for other countries, as you can see, there are like Ivy Leagues mentioned here and all the top colleges. Definitely, you have to create your profile in a way that you can secure admissions in these colleges. Closer to home, like even in Singapore, NUS and NTU, they have good colleges or they have good courses in finance, which can provide a very foundational education to you in this field. Okay, let's move on. Now, again, this is important for all of you to understand that, hey, I have done so much like studies in this field and I'm interested in this field, but where all I can work, right? So as you can see on the left side, I have listed down like the firms or companies or kind of like segments itself where you can think of working. So investment research brokerage firms open to anyone who is studying finance and investments, asset management companies, private equity and hedge funds, investment bank, right, which is our topic for the day, consulting firms, and even corporate in their finance and treasury function. They really kind of employ people who have done their educational courses in this field as such. And you can see a lot of logos there of known corporations in India and across the globe. Okay, I hope it gives you some understanding of it where you can target to work. So with that, I come to the end of what I wanted to cover in terms of giving you an overview. And now we have come to the fireside chat, which is our highlight of the session. And let me see if Munish has joined us already.
And there should be. I'm there.
Hey, good morning. So thank you
Morning.
so much for joining, Munish. How are you doing today?
All well. I
Okay.
was listening in. I think this was fairly comprehensively put together.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for your feedback. So let me just give a small introduction of Munish for all the students and parents out here. So he is working currently with Equirus Capital as a managing director, and he has close to 17 years of experience, or rather more than that, in the field of investment banking. Before working at Equirus, he worked as an analyst in the capital markets team of JP Morgan and Chase. And in terms of his education, he did his MBA in finance from Symbiosis, Pune. So with that short intro, again, very warm welcome to you, Munish. And I think it's the time for us to kickstart our fireside chat.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, I'll just try to put you on spotlight. Give me a minute. Yeah. Okay, I hope everyone can see you. Can you see me well and hear me well?
Yes, I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay, so let me first just put the first question in front of you. What really inspired you to pursue a career in the field of finance itself, Munish?
Actually, to me, that's a pretty interesting story. So I did my, I think prior to landing up in finance, I did my engineering. And I did my engineering in a pretty inane subject called textiles. So like a lot of us, basically, when you leave home after you're 12,
Mm-hmm.
parents basically now probably you guys have it much better in terms of the people who are listening in, but it was very, very clear. Become a doctor, become a chartered accountant, become an engineer. And I basically got slotted into that third bucket of basically being an engineer. And then I did 3 years of
Hey, Munish, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you be a little bit louder, please?
Sure. Marim, let me know if
And I can't see your video. I don't know if that's the case.
Have it on. Give me a moment.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly switch on, switch off. Still not there?
At least I can't see. Can anyone from the audience, can they confirm if they can see Munish on the screen? Because I can't see.
No, ma'am, the video is not visible.
Give me
Okay.
a moment.
Okay. So yeah, Munish, just try it once.
Give me 1 moment.
Sure. And in the meantime, I've started receiving a few questions already. So just as a reminder, keep putting your questions and I'll try to pick a few from there as well. And even our fireside chat questions will cover a lot of things from like Munish as an insight itself. But keep putting your questions there.
Give me a moment. I'm just logging in again. 1 moment.
Sure. So maybe in the meantime, like especially the students out here, like if you can tell me in which class you are in, right? And what specific activities or actions you have started taking to pursue a career in the field of finance. Like it could be anything which you might be doing. So put your class there and what you are precisely doing. Just put it in the chat. I'm interested in knowing that because many of you're attending this session because you have made your mind to maybe consider investment banking or career in finance. Okay. You can put it in the chat box. Nice. So Sarvesh says he's in class 10th and he's already reading books on investment banking, watching videos online. Great. Ritesh says, I'm pursuing BA honors in economics. I want to be a financial analyst and investment banker. Okay, that's your question, Ritesh. Which course you should pursue? Okay, we have covered that, but I'll also try to give some more information. Rishabh says, I'm in 10th grade and in previous year, I participated in a competition held by Wharton. Wow, that's amazing, Rishabh. So do we have Munish back?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
there.
Perfect. Now I can see you. I hope that's the case with everyone else as well. Okay, so let's restart, Munish. So what inspired you to pursue a career in finance?
Yeah, so Shruti, like I said, so thanks for the introduction. I think, but prior to what you mentioned in terms of the journey in finance, I actually did my schooling based out of Delhi.
Okay.
Then I think, like I said, most people at that particular point are given three choices. So if you're doing a professional career, become a doctor, become an engineer, become a CA. CA was out of the question. Never had aptitude from a accounts perspective. So very, very clearly decided that that's not never going to happen. That's never going to happen. So to that extent, engineering, and I did engineering in a subject. I think most people won't even know engineering happens in that state sites. I did heavy machinery installation for 3 years in my life before actually realized that this is too slow and I'm too restless to be able to do that. And yes, that's basically where the journey started. So I was looking for something which actually challenged almost on a daily basis in terms of what you're doing.
Okay.
So then basically did my MBA and again, symbiosis happened. From symbiosis, I think went to JP Morgan. And that's where what you were mentioning became pertinent because when JP Morgan came, I think they're very, very clear in terms of what they were looking for.
Okay.
They were looking for someone who can actually leave academics out. Academics are critical because that's the first gating criteria that they'll have, that someone who doesn't qualify the threshold that they have put in will not even get a shot in terms of interview. But I think what they were looking for more was in terms of someone who actually can solve, is good at problem solving. And therefore, what you mentioned is a part of that. I think what if someone is keenly looking at investment banking, I think the biggest thing is you should read everything that you can get, interact with as many people as you can, and then basically try and look through in terms of what you can get out of it. So we basically, to that extent, when we got into an interview phase, the question that I was asked as a part of JP Morgan interview was actually that if you were if you're an observer for a football game, and I, before the football game starts, ask you a question that technically, how many times the football will get kicked? What will be the answer?
Okay.
And that's no business school teaches you. This is basically where it comes to how you analyze the problem. I've been in love with this profession since then. This basically is a profession which takes a lot in terms of timing. But if you're into it in terms of if you enjoy what you're doing, I think nothing like it. It gives you a high almost every day. You speak to CXOs, you speak to people who make a difference in the world. And then you basically, just like I said, that's another high. So that's what has got me glued on, what has kept me going on from a professional perspective.
Okay. So the challenging aspect of the role is something which maybe truly inspired you to pursue that field itself. Would that be correct?
One. So be in second, I think you can see whatever you're doing making a difference. So again, if you guys follow from what has been happening in the markets last week, the week that went by, we had 5 IPOs on. We were on one. We were basically planning to launch another. You can see the difference that it makes to people in terms of companies. You can see the difference it makes to people in terms of their investment. You can see the difference actually happening. Nothing charitable about it. It's much more probably ego as compared to anything else. But yes, the difference is extremely visible.
Okay. Munish, I am getting a request from few of the participants. If you can be little bit more louder, and I cannot see you again, but
Again,
that's fine. Let's continue.
moment
Yeah,
again.
now I
Sorry.
can now.
Sorry.
Just like
No, something happened with my laptop, so I am logging in my phone. So I
okay.
think if my basically video goes off, please give me a ping and I'll be happy to basically just quickly check why.
Sure. I just received a request asking you to be a little bit louder, but
Sure.
let's continue. Yeah. Okay. That's my next question. And again, all the questions which I would be asking you, keeping in mind that we have primarily students out here and we want to give them a good visibility into the practical aspects of this role so that they make a much more informed decision as such. So help us understand, or rather like walk us through your typical day as an investment banker, and also describe your key roles and responsibilities.
Okay. So again, from a profile perspective, let me to that extent, I think spend 30 seconds on that. I had whatever we do in terms of regulated practices within Equirus, and I am a part of an organization called Equirus, which effectively means that whatever we do on capital markets and whatever we do in hard manufacturing, basically I had that.
Okay.
Effectively, what does it mean? It means that you need to be on top of in terms of whatever is happening in the markets. And you also need to be in terms of whatever is happening in the sector that you're a part of. So a day typically, so we will start around 7:30. That's the first call, I think, when it starts for me. From a end of the day perspective, can be anytime 9:30, 10. I think that's way more flexible. But starting of the day has to be 7:30 because that's when the first call starts in. Because the trading teams, dealing teams come online. And that basically you need to be ahead of the market in terms of trying to figure out what are you going to do today. A typical day invariably will entail basically at least 2 or 3 client meetings, which means a lot of travel, both within the city where you're domiciled out of. So we'll have to basically apologize for this. My camera basically for whatever reason is cutting in and cutting out. I'm trying to basically manage that.
That's okay. Go on.
But basically, it will entail a lot of client interface, which effectively means that you will spend almost 5 to 6 hours a day in terms of engaging with the clients, either in person or over calls. And the balance is actually managing the team in terms of making sure that from a delivery perspective, you're bang on. Typically, you will see basically short fuse timelines. You will have so the belief always is that if something can be done in 24 hours, is there a way to do it in 16? And the market keeps evolving with that. So the moment someone gets a way to do it in 16, the market will immediately say, okay, if this can be done in 16, can we do it in 15? So therefore, that continues. But yes, this will entail a lot of, from a skills perspective, this will include a lot of Excel modeling. This will include a lot of presentations, either working correctly or working with the team on that. But I think a large part of the team day, except for where you're engaging with the clients, actually goes in managing teams.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Like, and as a entry level analyst, like I'm just expanding on my question, what would be a typical day be like? Because I think it takes years of experience to really just get into the team management and entire thing of as an investment banker. But if students join as an analyst, like what they can expect as their regular day to be supporting an investment banker per se?
So I think almost split equally between the 3 ends, which will be one, research background work. So hypothetically, let's assume that as a part of the team that you're working on, you want to work with Adani on a cement transaction. Now, to begin with, you need to understand what cement is all about, what the industry is all about, who's doing what.
Yeah, industry knowledge.
You need to basically to that extent. And one day you'll realize that you're working on cement, the next day you'll realize that you're working on steel, and the third day you'll realize that you're working on something completely different. You need to that extent, basically build up the knowledge the moment you're stopped on a transaction. Second is going to be then converting into something tangible, which is either in the form of a presentation or in terms of a financial model. Generally, you will work on these 2 formats. And third is still a lot of customer interface. You will still need to make sure that you are working with the hierarchies change. So as compared to working the CXO level, at entry level, you are basically working with someone lower in the hierarchy. but you're still doing a lot of client engagement. So
Got it.
broadly, I think, and depending on where you are on the transaction, that keeps changing. But yes, those are the three principal things that basically take a lot of time for someone who's at an entry level within the organization.
Got it. Okay. So let me move on to my next question, Munish. Like, per you, what education background is most valuable for a person who wants to make a career in the field of investment banking? And also, were there any specific subjects or experiences which you had during your high school level, right? Which particularly helps you till date in your role?
Okay. So I think what is, like I mentioned, maths is important. The reason maths is important is because when you're in front of a client, the client expects you to be able to give answers on the spot. So we'll tell you that his revenue is going to be 1,000 crores. He'll be doing 15% EBITDA, and he'll be doing depreciation of 80 crores, interest of 70 crores. And then you basically, while you're speaking to him in the background, you will be able to compute, okay, what is this year number in terms of profit after tax is supposed to be, what next year, what next year, what next year, what it means from a valuation perspective. It's very simple mental maths. It doesn't take vector algebra, it doesn't take trigonometry, it doesn't take anything.
Yeah.
So you need to be extremely sharp with numbers. So yes, if you can basically find a way to work with complex mathematics, it becomes easier when you're modeling. Because when you're modeling, some of these things come in pretty handy. But the first and the foremost thing that you should invest in is basically making sure that you're extremely good with numbers. And when I say numbers, very simple numbers. This is simple addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication, nothing beyond that. You're in most of your life as an investment banker, you'll actually be using these four functions, unless you're working on a financial
Mm-hmm.
as a part of the school, I think what will go a long way is basically building a personality. Because, like I said, people look at you first; they form a perception about you before they understand what is the knowledge that you're bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's basically sports, whether it's extracurriculars, whether it's making sure that you're able to comprehend things pretty quickly.
Correct.
But I know a lot of people who, from a school perspective, just did enough, not by design, but by default, who just did enough in terms of making sure that they get into decent colleges, but
Mm-hmm.
otherwise built a personality. So you basically look at their laurels and you realize that the guy was actually part of a drama school to basically anything. Because when you're basically, and we have when we do detailed chats with respect to what it takes to be investment banker, we
Mm-hmm.
call it circles of life. So hypothetically, if I draw my entire day into like 10 circles where I interact with people,
Mm-hmm.
and you will interact with people who are in similar circles. So I have 10 interfaces basically happening at the same time. One with respect to my profession, one with respect to my hobbies, one with respect to my kids, whatever interface you want to draw. The
Mm-hmm.
larger the number of interfaces, the more the number of people you can connect to when it comes down to it. As you grow in the profession, so entry level is easier. When you grow in the profession, you will be responsible for bringing in money. You will be responsible for bringing in revenue.
Yeah.
And you can't get into those circles at the drop of a hat. You can't say, oh, by the way, I'll just join a golf club today and tomorrow I'll basically have all the buddies in the golf. You have to invest time behind it. So as a part of the school curriculum, yes, important that you basically focus on your studies because that becomes the gating item. You don't have a good college, either in terms of MBA or in terms of your grad school. It's a no-brainer that you will find it extremely difficult to get it. But beyond that, invest behind the personality that people will be looking at before they even listen to what you have done in life.
True. And I think you touched upon a very important point. And even in my practice, what I have seen primarily, like, especially like students who are appearing for, or like class 10 students appearing for their boards, or 12 students, parents generally like start, for a lack of a better word, discouraging their wards from continuing with their activities. Like it could be like they were more inclined towards sports, so it is something which comes up in their conversation itself, that okay, we have to get good academic score, so let's cut down on other things, right, which they feel could be a distraction. But Munish, what you really said, I would want to re-emphasize that, because there is a lot of soft skills which sports and other curricular activities help us to develop, and which goes a long way in making us as a good professional, right? Beyond that, even colleges these days, right now, they have started focusing on something called as holistic admissions, right?
Right.
Which is your academic scores, your even like SAT scores, ACT scores, or even like CUET scores. Those are important, but who are you as a person, right?
Right.
So that is something which they are more interested in. So it is a very important point which you brought
And
forward.
to me,
And I
that's also more lasting. Like I said, so today, if someone asks what and how sulfuric acid is made in a lab, trust me, I studied that at some point in my life, but do I really bother about it, or do my clients bother about it? The answer is no. Unless I'm working for a company which makes sulfuric acid, then of course they'll bother about it. But what people still bother about is, and what makes basically this stick is where they can find a connect with you. How they can realize that you're just not another drone, another body. They can connect with you in terms of what you do, shared experiences, common connects, common people you know, how they can connect with you as an individual. Organizations, of course, are important, but how do they connect with you as an individual? That's how you create your own personal brand.
Agreed. Okay, so let's move on to our next question with that. Just if you can throw some light on the career path of an investment banker, and what kind of growth and career advancement opportunities are available. I think that would be really helpful for all the students here.
Okay. So you invariably, so most places, including MNCs in India, hire people at two levels. One is analyst level, which is what you mentioned, entry level. But if you're generally coming from one of the IIMs, specifically A, B, or C, even in MNCs you get placed at an associate level, which is level 2. You actually don't enter at level 1. The journey from there onwards is very, very well laid out in most organizations. So the hierarchy, the way it works is analyst or associate, analyst to begin with. So analyst, you are at the bottom of the pyramid. You basically get all the grunt work, whatever no one wants to do, wherever the timelines are difficult. In India, we still have it better. In New York, I know the colleague that I used to work with as part of JP Morgan, you generally have 2 pair of clothes in your drawer in terms of making sure that if you have to stay in the office, you at least have a fresh pair of clothes every day. But that basically is what it. So, what is the intent? The intent is to make sure that you segregate people who can take the pressure, and anyone who can't take the pressure, you generally let them go. Over a period of time, they realize this is not for us. So, when I joined JP Morgan, we had someone who came in from New York, and she's done investment banking for probably 24 years of her life. Okay. And her only point was that if you're in this profession for money, you will very quickly realize there are way better ways to make money as compared to investment banking. Yes, this profession gives you money. You actually make a pretty decent living. But you're trading this in for, I think, a large part of your life when you actually want to go out with friends, plan trips, way more difficult in this profession. So at the drop of hat, I had a colleague who basically had his brother getting wedded, and 4 o'clock in the morning, he took a flight and was in the office by 7 o'clock next day. That's what it takes. So what the organization is doing, organizers trying to put you into situations where they realize that, okay, are you committed enough? Once they have a sense that, yes, you are, generally in most places, 2 to 3 years max, you will get pushed up to associate level. Analyst level, client interface, yes, client interface is limited. You're doing way more basically work in the background. At associate level, you're actually starting to manage clients to a certain extent. You're actually speaking to people not again at a CXO level or a vice president, specifically large organization level, but you basically are pushed into a situation where we tell you, okay, this is supposed to be done, do it. Guidance is available, but to that extent, you start getting independent charge of collaterals, not transactions, but collaterals. Collaterals, when I say that, basically a model index. And then we sit back in terms of trying to figure out that, okay, how are you doing? There are people who very quickly graduate to a point where they start getting restless. We don't want to only own up the collateral, we also want to own up the transaction. Okay. Hypothetically, we're working on M&A. You start getting restless that why are you not the point person with respect to running a transaction? So what the organization does is basically smaller transactions, they start pushing onto you in terms of saying that, okay, let's figure out how do you deal with that. Okay. People who do well, then generally get pushed out to, in some organizations we call a senior associate role, in some organizations we call this as AVP role, and that basically keeps varying. And there where you basically start getting your transaction ownership. So that effectively means they'll give you a transaction. So this is a transaction you're responsible for. Whatever support you require from an organization in terms of either resources or in terms of competence, we'll provide. But delivery is your baby incrementally. Hypothetically, I'm the managing director on this. I'll still do client interface with you. I'll do problem solving for you. If the client start getting restless, you can pull me in. But I'm not going to be doing the nuts and bolts from a transaction perspective.
Understood.
AVP to VP is a more, like I said, nuanced journey because there is no set rule in terms of why and where. It's just basically AVP, generally we say AVP 2 year, 3 years, basically we say that, okay, right to become a VP and right to also start grooming the person for a revenue role. Realize up to AVP, you generally don't have a revenue role. You are not responsible for bringing in business. You're only responsible for delivering on whatever has been brought in by someone else. As you go along, as you basically start reaching the VP role, you start getting groomed for actually business origination. And business origination effectively means that you'll have to go to someone with the idea and basically suppose going to hypothetically a Godrej in terms of telling them that they're sitting on huge parcels of land in Vikhroli, why not sell part of it and monetize? And that's basically where there's a lot of grooming involved in terms of making sure that when you're going out to something, you don't rub or basically cross any of the red lines. From a VP, it generally is an associate director, director, and a managing director. This is all, at least these thresholds are all related to how much revenue you can bring in. Because starting the AD, your primary responsibility is a multiple of the CTC that you have. What multiple of that can you bring in terms of revenue? That's largely in terms of how this unfolds in terms of career of an investment banker.
Okay. So I think that would be giving a good insight to all the students, like how you can expect your career trajectory to be in this field. So let me move on to my next question here. Help us understand what are some of the challenging aspects of your role, Munish, and how do you really overcome that? Like what tactics you use or how do you prepare yourself for those challenges?
The biggest continues to be big time. 16-hour a day is not an anomaly. 16-hour days are probably a rule. And that takes getting used to. Not only for you, but also your family. Because we have seen a lot of people drop out towards the early phase of their life because the families to that extent can't put up with that. And it's not only spouses, it's also basically parents, it's also the ecosystem around you, where you either don't want to or you don't just can't take the pressure in terms of managing multiple things at the same time. But beyond that, I think, like I said, we're extremely small team. So while we do what we do, on our advisory side, we are a 25-member team. So that effectively means that whatever decision you make, you have to own up to that. Effectively, that means if I go to a client in terms of saying that let's do this transaction and the implication of this is 1, 2, 3, there's very limited in terms of fallback or a security net where you can say that if something goes wrong, you can just drop it onto someone in terms of saying, "Ki ab aap dekh lo, mera to ho gaya." So that effectively means that when you enter into boardroom, you have to be like 200% sure of what you're talking about, because you will be called into question one before the execution happens. Execution in terms of when the trade happens, and if something goes wrong, people will not forget, and people will not forget. So therefore, this is an extremely high pressure job from that perspective, and also from an ownership perspective, this is absolute. There is no fallback in most cases. Yes, at a junior level, yes, there is a fallback because the organization will stress test on whatever ideas you come with and make sure that we present it once the stress test has been done. But as you grow, you have to be confident enough that whatever you are talking about, whatever you say that you can deliver, you are largely in a position to deliver.
Got it. Okay. So overcommitting under delivery is something which is not at all acceptable.
So we do. So I think if that would have been the case, I think a lot of investment banking will disappear.
Okay,
The point is that you have to find a balance in terms of what you overcommit and how much you can deliver so that the guy doesn't lose faith in you. See, again, like I said, what are you creating? Organizations will remain. You're also creating a personal brand. And it's an extremely small market. If I'm working on, hypothetically, like I said, cement is a sector, there are like 20 odd companies in the country which basically are sizable companies who do cement. If you rub one person extremely wrong, you commit to him that I'll get you debt at 3%, and you know that you can't get the debt at even 12% for the guy is either going to assume that you don't know what you're talking about or that you pulled a fast one on time. And that sticks. People speak while there are competitors, they'll still, at least the teams below, people who are not in marketing, they still form a pretty close-knit community. So once you've burnt your bridges, you've burnt your bridges. So you need to know how much fab is too much fab. You can always say that I can deliver the moon to you, but you'd rather at least take him to moon if you can't deliver the moon to the guy.
Okay, good. Good to know that. And I think, yeah, we touched upon challenges. I also want you to touch upon the rewards of this profession. You have, again, spoken about things already, which are reward in this profession. But if you can be more elaborate for the students out here, that would be truly helpful.
So most people, and I think not a wrong way to look at it, monetary. Monetary is probably the most important one, at least to begin with.
Yeah.
But as you go along, I think, like I said, the ability to walk into a boardroom and whatever size, shape it may be. So today, if L&T, I have to meet Mr. Nayak, I think it'll take me 2 days, but yes, that can happen. If I have to go and meet Mr. Adani, probably it will take me a week, but I'll be able to meet the guy. Okay. And that's not basically a mean thing. So like I said, not for any other reason, but for, again, like I said, that's a personality trait. For someone who basically wants to be in the thick of things, and that's a personality trait as an investment banker, that's bare minimum. That gives you a lot of kick. So yes, money is important, but it's also about, like I said, your ability to at least believe that you can make a difference. Whether positive or negative doesn't make a difference. So like I said, we were involved from a Coal India perspective, we were doing something for Coal India. Whether that's positive or negative, I don't have an answer. But when the transaction happened, you know that you've made a difference, at least in terms of the way people look at Indian capital markets.
Okay, great. I think this would be, again, very helpful for students to know what kind of rewards you get, even besides the monetary aspect, like having access to the renowned people and like who are established people in their industry, because I think it's a way even to learn through them as well, through those interactions, and have your personality groomed as well, right? So that access is equally a reward. That's what I would say, Munish.
And so, and again, another instance is that we were doing an IPO for, and again, all of you guys will know a company called L&T. So we were doing for a subsidiary of L&T Finance, we were doing an IPO. Now, the guy who heads L&T Treasury, the guy who manages, used to manage in good old, almost 14 years back, 40,000 crores in terms of money, where the money will be parked. The guy basically sits down and basically wants to have a discussion that the DCF that you have used, the DCF basically assumptions are wrong. And now you have to hold your own. And you have to convince the guy that because you're doing this and you're doing this because you're a professional, no, that there's a rationale that has gone into it. But you end up learning a lot.
Yeah.
So yes, from a rewards perspective, you'll rub shoulders with the smartest, the most influential people in the market. And of course, you will make money.
Great. So with that, Munish, I'll move on to my next question. And this is also something which Rishabh, who is a student in our audience, has also asked. So as you know, AI is the hot topic these days. So are there any concerns or even like potential upsides or downsides of AI in the field of finance and particularly investment banking? And what you foresee in terms of using AI in this field?
Too new. See, all of us are experimenting. There is a school of thought that the intake batches, which is basically when we hire at entry level, we can try and basically do a mix and match. Most people are doing that. India is still behind the curve on this, but I know New York, the intake has reduced by 20% or thereabout in terms of the analyst pool,
Okay.
because people are experimenting with AI. Now, the challenge is that AI will be able to replace the grunt work, but you
Okay.
still need to do the same sorting that we used to do in terms of take 100 analysts, out of that 40 will become associate, out of that
Mhm.
20 to 25 will become AVP, and then you basically keep thinning the crowd. That process can't change. So to that extent, AI will become a force multiplier. I think as of now, AI is being seen as, can we reduce the grunt work that anyone needs to do?
Okay.
Can I use AI to make sure that if there's a huge database that would have taken an analyst probably 3 days to look through and come up with something sensible, can
Mhm.
it be done in 3 hours? But like I said, I don't think that it's going to replace the need for having a person who's advising you.
Mhm.
So in MBA, when we were doing MBA, I think the most important subject, apart from core finance subject, was actually organization behavior.
Okay.
Because when you're doing investment banking, you're actually looking at someone in terms of anticipating how he'll behave in a particular situation.
Okay.
Unless you can do that and you're doing a negotiation, it's extremely difficult for you to predict what his next step is going to be.
Mhm.
And negotiation can be anything. I keep telling people, when I basically speak to people in family where they want to understand what it entails, is it when you negotiate with your parent with respect to your, your pocket money, quote unquote, that's a
Mhm.
many negotiation, as good as it gets. You need to have a solid case. You need to go to your whosoever is the counterparty. You need to make them convinced that your case basically has a lot of merit, and then you need to push hard to basically get what you want. But
Mhm.
for that, the way you need to know your parents in terms of what will work for them, what will not work for them. You need to know the counterparty in terms of what his trigger points are, what pains him, what is going to get him to behave in a particular manner. That can't be AI. As of now, at least we have not reached a point where AI can do that for you.
Mhm.
So therefore, AI will become a collaborator, but I don't think that we are seeing a challenge in terms of AI becoming a serious threat to the profession, at least till. But it's entry level, your enrollments, people who used to hire big, whether it's a Goldman or a City in New York, they've started toying with the idea that can we basically reduce the intake by probably a 10-15% every year.
Mhm.
If they used to hire 100 people, can we do reduce it to 80-85? And
Mhm.
then we use AI to basically do part of it.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So yeah, thanks for that insight. And I hope Rishabh, it helps answer your question as well. So we are moving towards the end of our session. We have just a couple of minutes left. So I'll pick one question from the audience and I'll just ask my last question before I go into even our small rapid fire with Munish. So
Sure.
one question which I'll pick from audience is, or rather, yeah. So Ritesh, your question around courses is something which is answered already in what I have covered in the first 15 minutes of the session. So I'll share the recording. You can listen into it, and that would really help answer that question. I'll pick up Sriram's question. That's something which I think you can provide some insight. His question is, if you're not getting internship in one of the top rung investment banks, should you take up internship with IB or like investment bank, which handles couple of assignments a year? What's your thought there, Munish?
So anything is better than nothing. So like I said, you're always basically dealing. There's no perfect, but you're always dealing with the hand that you're dealt with. Investment banking, like I said, there is the larger organization, in fact, and a lot of people will ascribe to that. Suppose I got into JP Morgan. There are a couple of colleagues who basically went into relatively smaller brands. And then 3 years later, I realized that I don't want to work with JP Morgan and I'll work for a smaller brand, quote unquote. We were much smaller when we started because we started in 2007, I joined in 2008, almost a startup. So to that extent, what you learn from a smaller brand at times, a much smaller investment bank, is much better as what you learn in a larger brand. And so we have a couple of minutes, I'll probably expand on that.
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
So a larger organization will have everything in terms of process set in. So suppose there's a guy whose job is only to get the business in. He's not involved in delivery. He's not involved in anything. Once the business is in, there is a sector team whose job is only to look at, hypothetically, let's look at JP Morgan, only to look at cement sector and cement sector only in India. So there's one guy who's just going to do in and out. That's all that he does. Now that's good and bad both. It's good because you build extremely high competence in that one sector. But it's bad because you're only getting pigeonholed into one small niche of the sector. You have protocols that without involving a director, you can't speak to a client. You have protocols that you can't pick up the phone in terms of doing and speaking to the client with respect to certain things, which at a global policy level they have decided they will not do. So therefore, a big bank comes with a lot of restrictions around the role that you will have. A small brand actually is much better at times, and I'm saying at times, because a small brand will literally throw you in the deep end in terms of saying that now figure out how you want to swim and we'll help. So therefore, don't get bogged down in terms of that this is a smaller brand. If you can get a bigger brand, it goes a long distance in terms of a final placement, because it does impact when we are hiring in terms of looking at where you've done your internship, because we form an opinion, right or wrong, we still form an opinion in terms of what we do. But no, I think if you're getting into any investment bank which is doing at least some transaction volumes, don't bother, get into it. You will learn a lot.
Great. Thank you so much, Munish. I hope, Sriram, that helps answer your question. So I know we are 1 minute over time, but if you can stay over for a couple of more minutes, Munish, and those of you who are already there. Okay, so I'll ask my last important question, which is what kind of misconceptions or myths are generally there about this career, like which you commonly encounter when you talk to people outside of this industry?
So I think a lot of people who have at least looked at investment banking from what the media portrays basically believe it's all about glitz and glam. Trust me, very, very small component of the business. Yes, you need to be seen at the right places, rubbing shoulder with the right people. But that's not even probably 5% of what your entire day, entire journey looks like. But that's a necessity, because if you're not seen at the right place with the right people, how do you build relationships? But given a choice, like I said, I'll rather meet people one-on-one as compared to meeting them across social functions. I'll rather basically spend time in terms of what they want to achieve with respect to their family transitions in a more relaxed coffee shop as compared to meeting them at a high-end restaurant. No, doesn't happen. Most of the deal making actually happens at pretty laid-back either offices or pretty laid-back where people are not bothered about basically where people specifically are comfortable that they not be seen in terms of trying to do something that the world doesn't expect them to do. So yes, glamour to a certain extent, yes, but no, that's not basically a core part. Second, I think specifically, and assuming a lot of you guys will be also looking to build a career in India, you make a lot of money. But trust me, you don't make so much money that you will be able to, even if you're in New York, that you'll be able to afford a apartment in New York, at least till you are a mid-level associate, or if you're in Bombay, that you'll be able to afford a place to live, a decent place to live, not basically 1 BHK, a decent place to live in till at least you're again a senior associate. So yes, you make money, but it comes with the cost that you're living in few of the highest cost cities in the specific geography. So whether it's London in UK or New York in US, Bombay is relatively okay in terms of it. It's not as chalk and cheese, or Hong Kong. So you don't have a choice but to be there, and but to be seen in the right circles. So yes, you will have a fancy car, but the downside of it is you realize that you have no choice but to have a fancy car, because if you're going for a client meeting and you basically reach there in your Suzuki Swift, the client is going to judge you. So therefore, you have no choice but to very quickly graduate towards a Merc or Audi as you go to the meeting. So you have to put up pretense. So yes, some of this basically the media portrays it pretty well. They basically show all dapper-looking investment banker who just come in and basically just wave a magic wand and everything comes full circle. Doesn't happen like that. And so for anything that you see which is happening in the newspapers, whether it's, for example, Tata Technologies IPO close this week. I know that the time spent by the team, and we were not on that, the time spent in the team with respect to a normal analyst, one analyst who would have been on that trade, will be almost 6 months.
Okay.
That's a huge lot of media doesn't show you that. Media just shows you and see all these nice looking people who go shake hands with the top management at Tata and say that this is investment banking. Yes, that is. But that's, like I said, that's only the outcome, which is probably not even 5% of what your normal day will look like. That's the biggest perception mismatch. So yes, lot of basically visibility, but they don't show you what goes into it as you basically create a career out.
Munish, I would take one last question from the audience, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
So there is Rishabh again who has asked, is an investment banker a type of salesman? What's your thought on that?
So I think that's a very fair question. All of us, and Rishabh, I think that's a very pertinent question. But look through, the moment you basically cross middle management, whatever profession you pick up, you will have a revenue target. I have seen this happening even in technology, where technology, a lot of people believe that to begin with, you're doing coding, yes. But the moment you cross middle management, what you're actually doing is selling something. Now, that can be an idea, that can be a thought process, that can be organization, whatever you're selling. The moment you cross middle management, you're just selling. All of us are salespeople when you look at people who have crossed a particular threshold. So yes, it's a sales job. The only difference is how. So it's what we call as quote unquote institutional sales as compared to when you're required to look through the prism of how a retail customer is going to behave about something. But bang on, I don't think that anyone can disagree with that it is going to be, you can even call it a glorified salesperson, because that is what it is going to be. Wherever, whatever profession you're doing, if you're a revenue role and if you're not on a cost role, you're not a compliance officer of a company. Even if you're a CFO of a company, you will still need to basically keep selling the services, the ideas internally. It just that your clients, rather than becoming external clients, will become internal clients. If you want a new database to be brought in, you have to convince the management that buy a SAP ERP, you should spend $5 million behind implementation, because no one will want to do that.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I think with that, Munish, I'll just put one question from my side, which is just on the lighter note there. So if you would not have been an investment banker, then what would you be?
I would have been in armed forces, and I basically that was actually my first love. So they basically rejected. So I basically wanted to join armed forces, but they said too early and too physically unstructured to be able to join that. But yes, had that not been the case, probably the choice where I would have invested a lot of time in would have been that.
Okay, so then the gain for the investment banking industry and a loss for our armed forces. That's how I'll conclude our webinar for today. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you so much, Munish, for taking out your time. I know it's a busy time for you, but your insights, at least like it is really helpful to know the practical aspects of a role, and you really touched upon all those things. So I hope it's useful for our students and parents out here. And as you can see on the screen, if you want to connect with us, you want to really get your psychometric assessment done, understand more about different careers and how you can do your profile building and other services, which I spoke in the start of the session, get in touch with us. We are there on all social media platforms, as many of the organizations today. So with that, thank you so much and have a good rest of your Sunday.
Thanks, Ruby. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.